I want to talk about colors, how you can get most of the image with working with colors when it comes to editing your photos. In photography, YouTube videos, you usually don't get enough information about colors. Everyone talks about composition, about light, about subject, about how can you get a sharp image, but no one talks about colors, almost no one. There are not so many videos that are talking about color theory in landscape photography or in photography. You can find this information in other type of art form videos like painting videos, even visual effects channels and art channels, but not much in landscape photography or in photography channels. And this is what I'm going to talk about in this video. For the purpose of this video, I'm using Capture One to edit my images or show you images, how you can do that. But you can use all of these theories in any application, any photo editing app. So let's start the basics of the color theory and how you can use that in your day-to-day editing workflow. In the end, I'm gonna show you a specific way to deal with colors in Capture One, and that's only in Capture One because this is the interesting and very powerful tool you can find in Capture One. I haven't seen it in any other apps. So stick around until the end because that's going to be a very interesting technique to learn. And if you're not a Capture One user, still you might find it interesting. So let's start with showing some samples and talk about the color theory in general. I'm going to start with this image. This is one of my favorite images. I took it in 2021 and I printed it and hang it on my wall. If I look at this image, I can select the color picker in my color editor tool and see what colors do I have in this image. You can see that I have yellowish colors and I have kind of greenish colors, but they are also close to yellow, and then I have some cold bluish colors. When it comes to adding colors or editing colors in your photos, it's very important to minimize your color palette. How often you have heard that fill the frame with the subject? How often you have heard that make your frame simple, make your composition simple? But it's equally important to also simplify the color palette you have in your image. And for me, it's one of the most powerful ways when it comes to editing to make the image simple and more powerful, more meaningful. So as you can see in this image, I have very limited color palette. I have some yellowish colors and so little bluish color. So mainly this image is about fall colors, about yellow colors. The original raw file, if I don't have it with me today on this laptop, but I could show you if I had it with me. It has a little bit more variance in colors. The greens were a little bit more colorful, more bright and more saturated. Also in the pine trees and this all these greens have been a little bit more towards greens that you can see around me almost. Consciously, I reduced that saturation in the greens and I made them or shift them, change the hue a little bit more towards the yellowish colors, so they become a little bit closer to each other. Also, I muted them by reducing the brightness in the green colors, and that helps to minimize the color palette I have in this image. Also, the blue tones, the cold tones, they are very, very muted. They are not into your face, and that's a good thing, I guess, about this image. So when you look at this image, despite that is very, very chaotic, so many details, so many details in this image, as you can see all here. You can see that this is tremendous amount of details in waterfall, in foliage, in the background, but the image doesn't feel cluttered. It feels uniform, it feels simple, and that's mainly because of the colors. So when it comes to color theory, I'm not the best person to talk about color theory in the whole world, but I have picked up a few tips here and there in my several years of working as a photographer and visual effect artist, and I also did some painting. So I have a little bit of gathered a little bit of knowledge about color theory. And this video I cannot talk about that topic because that's it won't fit in one short video. But one of the simplest and more common way of using colors according to color theory is that using the complementary colors. Means that colors that they are one side of the color wheel, and then you have the color from the other side of the color wheel, and that's the only two colors that you're gonna have in your photo or in your art. Again, looking at this image, we have blue colors that they are on this side of the color wheel, and if I pick the picker again and click on the yellows, that you can see they are exactly opposite side of the blue colors I had, and the greens are not too far from the yellows, so they are very close to each other. The other type of color palette you can have is using analogous colors or adjacent colors. That means that you have very similar colors, that they are close to each other on the color wheel, and that's it. This is a good example of that kind of color palette in this image. If I click on the clouds, you can see that I have kind of magenta colors, and the rest of the image are blue. And the blues and magentas, they are analogous colors, they are adjacent colors. Whenever I'm looking at images, very powerful, I like them a lot and I love them, I notice that most of those images, they have minimal color palettes. This image doesn't use exactly adjacent colors, but it's close. So if I click on the cold tones, you can see that I have some blue colors here and there, and a little bit of purple colors, but they are very muted colors. But then we have sort of orange colors or reddish orange colors, that they are not exactly opposite side of the color wheel, and so they are not exactly complementary colors based on the color wheel, but still they are opposite of each other. They kind of, because these are warm colors against the cold colors in the image, so that also creates the same sense of complementary colors in this image. Again, I have complementary colors in this image, but it is different from yellow and blues that you can see in all other samples that I've shown you so far. Here we have green colors, and opposite of green colors on color wheel is magenta. Yeah, it's not exactly, as I said, complementary. They are not exactly opposite side of each other in this image, but still it works. It works as a concept and works as an image. One other way to minimize the color palette in your photo is just having only one color to dominate the whole image. Here is an example of that. In this image, I really love this image, and this image is very monochromatic. It's only blue colors, and that's the cold color that creates the sense of coldness. That's a snowy, wintry scene, and that makes sense to have a cold color. But that also helps the image to become simple and just about the subject. This is also another example of monochromatic image, which makes the image simple, and because it simple, it becomes a little bit more like a minimalist image. I had this foggy morning over the lake, and this is an island in the middle of the lake. I waited for some birds to come over, and I composed this image with the sky, and everything was like in the golden colors. It's created by the morning sun and the fog. The same goes for this image that is only gold colors that you can see here. Even though I have a bit of different details, it's not only one tree, there are more than that. There are some bushes in the foreground, and some clouds, even some clouds in the sky. But the colors makes the image simple, and that's helping a lot, in my opinion. This is another example of reducing colors in your edit, because as you can guess, there have been a lot of green colors in the grass, in the background, and I muted them when I edited the image. The trunk of these pine trees sometimes tend to become a little bit purple or magenta in the images. And I also reduced and desaturated those colors and just left the image with warm colors, warm autumn colors. Here is another example again with simple color palette, and that creates the image a bit more powerful. This is something that usually happens normally in blue hours and golden hours when you have only one dominant color in the sky or in the environment, like this one that I took this one. It's almost night. It's in the blue hours, and you can see everything is blue, and that helps the image to become more simple. Again, this is another example of complementary colors. We have blue colors and warm colors in the image. The same goes for this one, which is the same scene as the other one. This one, but it was a little bit earlier. Prior to that one, still I had some light. It was after sunset, but still I had some glow from the horizon. I'm gonna go over some other examples and just showing you how important it is to make the image simple by simply minimizing your colors. Showing some example of all of those three type of color theory that I talked about: complementary colors, analogous colors, and monochromatic colors in your images. This example I took a couple of weeks ago. I took this image. I really like that one because it also has a kind of limited color palette, but it's not exactly only two colors. You can see that if I select my color picker, we have some orange or yellow colors here. We have blue, of course, and then we have greens. But again, the green colors are not too far from yellow colors, because when I edited the image, I usually turn the greens a little bit towards yellow instead of being completely green. So if I select these greens and make them change the hue so they become a little bit bluish, you can it works, but I prefer it to be a little bit more towards yellow to become closer to the adjustment color, and this one, which is yellows, to complement the blue colors that is dominating the image. Now we'll get to a point where how you can actually do this in edit your photos in that way. There are different tools that you can use. In Lightroom you have a HSL panel, and you have the similar tool here in Capture One, which is the color grading tool. You have the basic panel that you can choose, select any of those colors that are primary colors or secondary colors, and change the value or hue or saturation. You also have the advanced tool in Color Editor in Capture One that you can pick specific colors and adjust the value of those selected colors. So it can select a range of colors. Still, it's a similar tool that you have in HSL when you use the picker in HSL, it does the same thing in Lightroom, I mean. In this image, as you can see, if I show you the raw file, you see that there are some bluish colors and some greenish colors that they are not working quite well. But in the final image, I make those greens a bit more green and a bit yellow, and the flowers, they become a little bit more purple, blue, and they become again complementary. Again, if I select the yellows, you can see that they are opposite of these bluish purpley colors that we have in the flowers. Again, we have a complementary and simple color palette that brings everything together. Now it's summertime, everyone's home. Hard for me to record that video. I thought maybe I'm gonna go out and do this recording here. I can bring my laptop and my cameras and record this tutorial here in the nature. So why not? That's a different approach. I think it's gonna be fun, and I hope you enjoy it too. So far, if you have enjoyed the video and you liked it, first please press the like button, and if you want to see more similar content, please subscribe to the channel, then I can provide you with more videos like this. Let's jump to the editing software in the Capture One and see what we can do when it comes to editing photos. But before I do that, I want to show you one more example. That's an example of when I failed. When I took this image, I was very proud of this image. It was a few years ago, and I thought this is a great moment. I captured it, and I loved the composition. I loved everything I managed in this image. But over the time, it failed to continue being my favorite, because I realized that it has some flaws, and especially in colors. I had a talk a couple of months ago for a group of people about photography and compositions, and I showed this image in purpose to the audience to see what they say about this, and everyone kind of agreed that this image has too much. There are too much details, there are too much colors, there are too much everything in this image. So if you look at the colors, you can see we have purple colors, we have green colors, we have yellow colors, we have red, we have purple, we have greens, we have yellows. Of course, you can use all of those colors that are more into color story, and you can have a color palette that has more than 2 or 3 colors. But it's very hard to achieve a good result with those type of colors. You have to be very careful with that. For instance, if I want to have this image like this, maybe I should reduce the saturation in the purples and make them a little bit less purple, more towards green, something like that. That might help a little bit. So if I turn this on and off, it already helps the image to become a little bit calmer, not screaming at you. Now I want to show you an image that I took a few days ago, and this image, I'm not a wildlife or micro photographer, but I was playing with my 70-300, and I found this lizard in the grass, and it was looking at me, and I took the picture. I like the image, but when I look at this image, the problem I have with this image is the colors. I have a good subject, I have a kind of good composition, very sharp eyes, and as an image I like it, but I have problems with the colors in this image. It's again all over the place. It's not pleasing to look at, and I want to make it simple, make it more powerful. The way I want to do that, I already edited this image, and I will show you the final edit later, but I have selected create mask for the lizard and for the rest of the image. That's all I need to have on this one. I did a simple edit here to adjust reduce the saturation and adjust the color balance a little bit. So if I turn this, if you look at the before and after, so far I just made it a little bit warmer. Now I have a layer that is selecting the grass mostly. I have a mask for the grass and nothing else, not a lizard. And I just want to start to fix the problems I have with this grass. And the first thing I can do is can use the color editor in Capture One or HSL Panel in Lightroom for that. I prefer to use Advanced tab because then I can select the colors that I want to work with, and it selects a range of colors here. So I can change the selection or expand the range of the selected colors if I want, and also make the selection smoother or harder if I need. So first thing I did was selecting these yellowish colors, and I want to change the hue on those to make them more towards green colors. I also want to change the green colors and move them a little bit towards the yellows. So again, I'm selecting those and I change the colors to be a little bit towards yellows. So now you can see that the brownish, reddish or orangish colors becomes a little bit greenish, and green colors are become a little bit yellow. They are converging a little bit. So that way I'm making the image a little bit more simple in terms of the colors. This lizard was black, but the skin is wet. It reflects the sky, and the sky is blue, of course. And then it was in the sunny day. I still feel that the grass needs a little bit more work. Still, it's a little bit not uniform. I want it to be a little more uniform. I want to create, make these colors a little bit more close to each other. I don't like this yellow colors mixed with these green colors that I have here. I want to make everything more homogeneous, more harmonious. I created a new layer with the same mask for the grass, and I call it grass again. And in this one, what I want to do is another way to actually affect the colors is to change the white balance, right? So I want to make this a little bit warmer and reduce the red magenta color to become a little bit green. So it becomes yellowish green. Already, if I turn this layer on and off, you can see that I took out some of the blue out of this yellow green colors, and like when you use a polarizer, you can remove the glare from the grass, from the foliage, and they become more vibrant, more green. They don't have the reflective blue on them anymore. So this is more or less what I did here. I also select these yellowish colors that I have here, make the selection a little bit wider on the on the color wheel, and I can change the hue, maybe reduce the saturation a little bit in these ones. So far what I've done is again simplify the color palette in this image. I haven't done too much to the image, I just worked with the colors. And you can see that from this cluttered image, I'm going towards something that is more simple. Now it's time to show you a trick that I use for this image, and it works for many situations that you can find only in Capture One, and that's using the skin tone tool in color editor. And that is how it works. This tool designed for the portrait photography. When you have a portrait, when you have a person, you select the skin tone and you kind of smoothing out the colors of the skin to make it more beautiful. It's a kind of beauty tool that you have for editing portrait photos. But now I'm gonna use it for landscape, or for now it's kind of portrait of this. So here, go to the skin tone, then you select the picker, and I'm gonna select one of these colors in the background on the grass. For this layer, I also only have the grass selected. I don't select the lizard. It's the same mask for this layer too. Now what I'm gonna do is actually expand this selection to go from almost the whole color range. There are two sections in this tool. First is the amount of the colors that you are selected. So you can, it's like a HSL, change the hue, or change the saturation of the selected colors, or the brightness of the colors, of course. But the second section is the one that I'm more interested in. Let me reset those. It's the uniformity. The uniformity section, actually you can use it to harmonize or bring or uniform the colors, the hue colors. If you have different colors in the skin tones, perhaps when you select it, you can make them a little bit closer to each other, make them more uniform. Same for the saturation. If there is different saturation in the selected range, they become a little bit less different saturated, more close to each other, more uniform. Same goes for the lightness. So let me first change the hue. You can see how much this tool is powerful. It almost reduced the yellows, the greens, and made everything a little bit closer to each other, more uniform hues that I have now. I also can do the same for the saturation, so I end up with don't have too much less saturated or too saturated colors. Same goes for the brightness, but I don't want to touch the brightness because I want to keep the contrast in the image. I don't want to make it flat. So I'm not gonna change but you can see how it works. Maybe a little bit to reduce the clutter in the image. That might be useful, just a little bit, not too much. And saturation, I don't want to touch it too much either, but what's more important, I want to harmonize the image or uniform the colors. And now if I change the hue here, you can see that I can make it a bit more reddish, or orange colors, or more towards the greens. And I can desaturate or have more saturation in the greens as well in these selections, and make them lighter or darker. And just with this tool, you can see how massively it affected the image. And now this is where we started with. And the image was kind of cluttered because of all other colors that I have in the background. Now everything becomes a little bit more uniform, less cluttered, and you only focus now on the subject, which is the lizard. You don't see the grass anymore that much. I have edited this image other day. This is the original edit I have done, so as you can see, it's a little bit different from this one. Yeah, you might prefer the new one or the old one. With a little bit of more, I darken down the bottom in this one a little bit and brighten up the top of the frame to give it the sense of the light is coming from top and the ground is darker, so to have more contrast as well. Also added a little bit of contrast and clarity on the eyes of the lizard. I hope this video has been helpful. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. And if you are interested about other techniques and more editing techniques, I have this video that I talked about the specific way to add glow in the image. You can check it out now. And if you are interested in more general topics about photography, I have these two videos. One is about composition, the other one is about the light, when I talked about light and composition in photography, landscape photography. So please check them out if you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you soon again. Until next time, take care and enjoy your photography. Bye for now. I should go and take some pictures before the whole the light goes. I'm here. Why not? Let's take some pictures.